Okay, let's start the shoulder. What I did is I found out that it's easier for me to upload videos to YouTube when they're less than 15 minutes. So I've been trying to cut these segments down to less than 15 minutes at a time. Okay, so we've got our two shoulder seams. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in our two sides. So do you know that the small side is your front? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is position your breast area to go to the front of the front piece of the mannequin. If you don't, you're going to end up having to take everything out and start all over again. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just put some pins in it. We're not going to sew anything until we can pin it down. We're going to pin it from the front and the back, because what's going to happen is we're going to have to do some easing in. And you want to do the easing in to be in the front of the mannequin. If you put your let me show you what I mean. If you put your easing in the back of the mannequin, I don't know, I got some thread through here, you're going to end up having a hunchback, and you don't want that. So you want your that's where I made the mistake on this one. I did too much easing in on the back, and I got that humpback effect, because you want that breast area to come and be more realistic to the doll shape in the back. So try not to do any easing in on the back piece. So we're going to sew from the bottom up on the front and the bottom up on the back piece. So let's go ahead and start pinning the back piece down also, so I can show you what I mean. Now on the pattern, like I said, they do a little clip here, but we don't have to do that. So let's go ahead and start pinning the back piece. Okay, so line up your bottoms. And we're going to try and go all the way to the top shoulder on this back piece without any gathers. It may not be possible, but we're going to try and do most of our gathers on the front of this mannequin piece. Okay, you're probably going to have to do a little, and that's just so that we can get this thing sewn up. Make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, so we've got that to that. Okay, so now we've got our back piece going. Okay, so let's go ahead and sew. We can sew from the bottom to the top, or we can do it the other way. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we have enough space that we will be able to get in all the gathers in the front. Otherwise, you're going to have a buckle in the front, and we don't want that. So let's start easing in our fabric. It's going to go past the bump of the breast. Okay, so there's the breast. Let's go ahead and put a little pin here. See how I'm buckling that fabric a little bit to get it around that area. So let's buckle this fabric. And we're basically easing that fabric in. We're not going to have any gathers, but we are going to ease that fabric in. So you understand that when I stuff this fabric, and I've got all this eased in area, that means that that stuffing is going to bulge that out a little bit in the right location. So that's why I suggest all of the easing in be done on the front of the mannequin. Okay, so now that we've got that, we can go ahead and sew from, I'm going to sew from the bottom to the top right here on the back side of the piece. And my front piece is here, And when I turn this, that breast is going to be attached to the breast area, is going to be attached to the front of the mannequin. So let's go ahead and do the back again. Make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this. So the back is the easiest one to sew. Okay, so let's bring this fabric around and lay it flat. Now make sure you get your 1/4 inch seams in, so you may want to adjust your fabric a little bit so that you do get those, get that in evenly. Okay. You're going to have a little bit of a leeway, so if it's not exactly perfect, you can make allowances. Okay, just do the best you can. Okay, I'm going up to that one shoulder seam and I'm going to back stitch. Okay. Okay, so I have no, well, I did a little bit off, but not too bad. It was better than the last one I did. So when you go around these curves, it's I tried clipping it the first time and I had an even bigger mess, so that's why I'm saying don't even clip until you're done. So there is the back. Looks pretty good. Okay, let's do the front now. We're going to do the same thing. This time we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to work ourselves up to the top of the shoulder seam here, and we're going to match with that back seam. If you overlapped a little bit, go ahead and clip that off there. So, okay, so now I'll be able to get in there and sew that. Okay, so now we're also going to be working with these puckers. So let's try and get our fabric as even as possible, even if you have to use a few extra pins. It'll help keep your fabric in line. Okay, so we're going to go from the bottom to the top of the shoulder seam. Okay, what's next? Okay, so now we're going to do the easing in. So you don't want any buckles, so just sort of help push that fabric towards your needle. If you have to lift and stretch a little bit, it's better that way so you don't get any ruffles. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, as you take the needles out when you get to them. Okay, I'm coming up to a look like a pucker. Okay, let's go further. Make sure your fabric's not getting caught underneath. Okay. we're up to our last pin almost. And I can see that top shoulder seam right there. So I'm going to match up with it. Okay, all right. Do you see how that all got puckered in? Okay, and I matched up with that shoulder seam. Okay, so that's it. You're going to do the same thing, exactly the same thing on the other side. So the only thing different is you're not going to be able to open this up because you're going to be sewing just like this, but not too bad. So you're going to have a few, check it, make sure that you got a nice shoulder seam here and you didn't have any puckers anywhere. And then we're going to go ahead and put the other side on now. Okay, so it looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to do side number 2. I'm going to do it exactly the same way. I'm not going to do it on video. So then I'll come back when I have the second side done and we'll start getting our dowel ready so we can start stuffing this. But like I said, it's going to be the same exact thing. Take your side 2 and make sure, because you're dealing with two-sided fabric. If you were doing one-sided fabric, you'd know exactly what was the wrong side of the fabric. But in this case, I don't know. So this way, I know I've got to get that front breast area into the front piece of the pattern. So when I put this on, I'm going to make sure that that is to the front in the narrow. If not, you're going to have to take the whole thing out, especially when you're dealing with a fabric like this where you can't tell if you're on the right side or the wrong side. So just start pinning that. And we're going to do the same thing on the back. The back's going to go straight up with no puckers all the way to the shoulder seam. And then the and what you're doing, the most important thing right now is to make sure that you've got the right side of the bodice. I mean the right side of the front connected to the front piece. So I'm in good shape. Okay, so I'm just going to keep pinning this one and I'm going to sew it. I'm going to do the same exact thing I did on the other side. Okay, so I'll get that done and then I'll come back and we'll get our dowel ready to put on our mannequin body. Okay, be right back.